Okay, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the August 17th meeting for the Department of Public Works Committee meeting. Definitely our most well-attended meeting. We generally start from 7 to 7:15 for residents' comments. I'd like to open it up to you guys. I would like to limit it to a reasonable amount of time, so if you have a spokesperson that has a general theme you want to go over and say, terrific. What I'd like to avoid is having the same theme over and over again until 9 o'clock tonight. So I'll open it up to residents' comments now.
We have our comments consolidated.
Terrific.
Should I sit up here?
Yeah, I think that's what they're looking for, yep. And this is going to be, is it live?
Yes.
I believe this is live on LCTV.
Yep. So, council members, we are here today, representatives from the neighborhood of Academy Drive, Northfield Road, Green Hill, Revere, Exeter, Cheshire, just to name a few in that neighborhood. We recognize you've been charged with a difficult mission to find a new location for the DPW, recognizing that the current property is not able to be renovated for several reasons, and therefore another location needs to be determined. We also acknowledge that land is limited in Long Meadow, and it's primarily a residential town, so the choices are challenging. We also know that this process has been going on for some time, since 2010, and that you are anxious to make a recommendation. However, we are gravely concerned about the selection of the water tower property as a top choice for the new DPW. Placing a commercial business in a residential neighborhood when other choices are available is not acceptable. We also know from previous committees on this subject and selection that while this site was on the list consistently, was moved off due to the nature of the DPW and the residential impact. Some of the things to consider are the increased traffic flow through the neighborhoods with trucks in and out all day long, and during the night during inclement weather to get salt, creating a safety issue for the children and the people in the neighborhood, creates a noisy place and general nuisance. It could have impact to the environment, such as salt and chemicals on the premises, such as sand, crushed stone, topsoil, and compost. I am not able to determine if the transfer station will be part of this move. I'm sure that can be answered easily. What is the impact to our property values? I mean, who would buy a house next to the DPW? It's not presently located near anything like that now. Another question we have is why are we revisiting this again and again? There was a process that was taken on, and sites were either ruled in or ruled out, and there was a clear choice. Wolf Swamp was eliminated off the list because the fields represent value to the town residents for our children. What is the message? Residents live here for the quality of life. Putting a DPW next to a residential area is not enhancing the quality of life. We have shrinking green space, and preserving it for the town would be nice. This is an established residential neighborhood. Many people built their homes and have lived there all their lives, and many of them are sitting in this room right now. Most people moved here because it was a quiet area and a good land size and a great place to raise our kids. Okay. Children in the neighborhood attend Glenbrook Middle School and often use the dirt road to get to school by walking or riding their bikes. People often hike through the wooded areas and walk their pets. Placing the DPW in this neighborhood would create the following issues, which I already went over because my slides are in order. In 2010, there was a task force assigned to find a new location for the DPW. Based on the established rating scale, this water tower site was eliminated. It did not even make the top 6. Grand Meadows rated the top spot, satisfying all established criteria. It's noted in the final document dated 3/22/2010. Upon review of the criteria, the task force unanimously recommends the Grand Meadows site as the preferred site for the new DPW facility. It can be developed for a reasonable cost and least impact on neighbors and no impact on public lands. The question becomes, why are we not utilizing the recommendation put forth them and going through yet another process to answer the same question? In looking at the land, the parcel represents about 20 acres of land. Therefore, to use 5 acres for the DPW is expensive and wasteful use of a town asset. If it only uses 5.5 acres, then it leaves other acres there for future development. So if, say, for example, you wanted to put residential, who is going to build houses, let alone buy houses, with a DPW going built right there? This is a significant commercial operation, and we have to take that into consideration. We need to have an understanding of how many times the DPW vehicles are going to get in and out of there during the day. What types of vehicles? What kind of impact? What kind of other work will they be doing there? What vehicle classifications will be there? What does that travel mean in and out of those roads, in and out of those neighborhoods? And Lastly, much of the town was openly hostile to further commercial development at the shops because it conflicted with the neighborhood character of the town. If this was a valid town view then how much more relevant is it an issue for the DPW? So some other additional comments that people were able to locate through the previous minutes of this meeting is that the DPW should be located away from a residential area. The floodplain issue, it's been 100 years, has been no barrier since 1936. Water tower is prime residential land, and that's been discussed before for other housing. And the town meeting will not accept the DPW at the Academy site. So we came together as a group. We wanted to share our thoughts, and we wanted to consolidate them, and we came here tonight so that we could show you that we are very concerned about placing the DPW next to where we live.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your name and your address, please?
You want me to state it?
Yes, please.
Renee Broadbent, 291 Academy Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, Renee, if you want to give me a copy of that or email it to me,
I will.
we can make it part of the...
Okay. Yeah, I have the slides out of order, so I'll fix it.
Okay, that'd be great. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Mark Dindis. I live at 30 Chatham Road. I obviously am not part of the group that's petitioning today. I live on the other side of town. On the one hand, I could say, what a great choice you're making because it's not near me. However, little humor, folks? However, I am totally opposed to this for the reasons that were mentioned. I can't imagine if this were going to be put near my house, whether I would think it would be a good idea. So I wanted to represent the other side of town and say, this is a terrible idea. Go with Grand Meadows. Thank you for your time.
We'll get to you. I'll go.
I'm Larry Bernstein, 256 Academy Drive. DPW serves the entire town. It's not just people, the kids in school, not the young, not the old, not tennis players, nothing. Everybody in town is served by DPW. The burden should be spread amongst the town. The burden should not be imposed on any one neighborhood.
Good evening. My name's John Sauvé. I live on 226 Academy, which my backyard is a proposed area. The reason my wife and I bought the house is because of the woodland behind us, and I want the woodland. I don't want to see giant orange trucks in my backyard. And never mind the wildlife. When you see the deer coming through the yard, going up to Turner Pond, and I think if you put that there, it's going to take away the aesthetics of the neighborhood, and there's lots of children in the neighborhood, and you have trucks rolling down all day. I mean, there's enough traffic right now with just the town trucks going up to the water tower. And I work out of my office upstairs, and I'm the third house before the dirt road. And there's trucks, DPW trucks, you know, small trucks, but now you're gonna put big trucks in there? I mean, I just don't think that's good for the neighborhood. I don't think it's good for you know, I mean, that's the reason I bought my house, because the area. And, you know, I grew up in Long Meadow. I graduated from Long Meadow High. I've been here since 1971. And I thought, oh, wow, buying a house on Academy Drive. That's perfect. Perfect. Quiet neighborhood. This is just going to make it in my opinion, unnecessary, because there are other locations that are far more fit than Academy Drive.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else?
I'd like to speak.
Sure.
I'll truncate my comments since several of them have already been said, but my name is Jeff Rintoul. I live at 27 Cranwell Lane. I have a copy here in front of me of the DPW Facility Committee meeting minutes from July 20th. And Section B is the water tower observations. And I'd just like to address a couple of the observations listed in your minutes, because I think it's very important for the people here who live in the area, as well as our reaction to these. The first comment, or one of the comments that I note, is the site is semi-industrial already. I went down there this morning. It's a dirt road and woods. I'm not sure, I would challenge that that's semi-industrial. There's a note here that says little evidence of passive recreation. This morning I actually drove down and I went to the gates in the water tower. There's no trespassing signs. So people are abiding by the rules and not going in this land because there's no trespassing signs. The final thing I'd like to mention is the statement that Academy Drive could be improved and would benefit residents. I'm not sure a DPW site in their backyard would be considered a benefit. So I just wanted to challenge those particular sites from your actual minutes, and thank you very much, and I appreciate your work on working on this site.
Anybody else? All right, great. Then we will move on to our agenda, and I think you'll find it interesting. I think I should respond to, obviously, the overwhelming turnout we have here tonight. And you have to understand, we've been doing this since March, trying to whittle down every single piece of property in town. And when Wolf Swamp Fields got eliminated, not because of the field size, because of the town vote, it was because it was Article 97, and the hoops you have to jump through there are enormous, and that's the main reason it was eliminated by this committee from consideration. But we weren't able to put it at Wolf Swamp Fields because of Article 97. This kind of ended up having to be pretty close to somebody's house, unless we go with Grand Meadows. There are no other sites in town that allow you to not be abutting against somebody. It's just the simple fact that it is. And what we're chartered with is to look at every possibility for the town, and we're going to make a recommendation to the select board, and we're still waiting for some information to come in on the water tower site. But what it comes down to for our recommendation and for the town, and this is not what we say as this committee is not going to be binding. It's a recommendation. I believe still there's going to be town votes, and there's still a process going on. But what we have to do is we have to give a choice to the select board, and it says, hey, we can ask everybody in the town to front an extra $3 to $6 million to acquire a site that is one of the few sites in town that can generate income for the town, and turn it into a completely non-revenue site, which is just going to mean more taxes later on for everybody in the town. So that's it's a big dose of reality for everybody. But we also understand, and we've talked about it many times, that if we put the DPW site in a residential area, those areas are going to suffer as well. So it's not an easy choice. It's not an easy choice at all. But we feel that if the water tower site is town-owned and unfettered, the town should be able to do what they want with that site. Now, what we're doing, and one of the reasons town council is here, we have put it to them to give us an interpretation on, is it town-owned, is it unfettered, can it be anything we want it to be, or are there restrictions on it? And that will change our opinion, and it will change our matrix and ranking on that site. So I really appreciate everybody's position on this. It's not easy, and I can understand why you're upset. But I just wanted to respond to you and let you understand why we are where are we at right now with our final 3 sites. And 2 of the sites they're not great. They don't feel wonderful, but the reality is, if that's town land, it's going to be developed into something at some point. And
So why wouldn't you put housing in there to make it residential, fit into the neighborhood?
do you understand that if you bought a land next to a piece of property that had woods on it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have woods on it forever?
No, I understand that, and that's not the reason, but a commercial business or commercial
But it's not
product
gonna
in a
create-
residential neighborhood.
I-
When there's a viable option, and I understand there's money, but we spend a lot of money in this town for things, why? And I'm not saying you don't have to make, I understand what you're charged with, and I'm not saying you can go and say, just do this one thing.
Did you-
I get that.
We gave you your chance to say. I'm giving you an explanation of what we've been going through for the last 6 months, and we understand your position, and I appreciate them. And your turnout tonight is going to influence on how we talk about it and how we make our conclusion and how we make our recommendation to the select board. And I really appreciate everybody coming. This is how our town works, coming out to the open meeting, and if you guys, by doing this, it's definitely going to have an influence on us. So I just want you to understand, we didn't make this up in the last 2 weeks, and this is a surprise to everybody. This has been on the list from day one. And it's been on the matrix, which we have had going now for about 4 months. It's always been on the list. And now that it's down to the final 2 or 3, obviously the people that are going to be in that area and affected are going to get excited. But this is not something that we just made up and say, hey, this is the way we're going. We're still methodically going through this, and we're not going to take any recommendation we give to the select board lightly. So I just want you to be aware that
Since this has been going on since March, can I ask a question? One of the things I brought up was, we had an evaluation done in 2010, right? There was this extensive study done by the town. Is there any reason why we didn't go back to that?
we reviewed that, but that's a question for the select board, actually.
Okay.
We were charged as this committee to start over fresh and not even consider anything from the past.
It seems like a waste of everybody's time, in my opinion, but, including yours.
Chris, I can speak to that. You don't mind?
No, we're good. I think everybody's saying what they want to say, but
Can I make a comment regarding the tax implications that you mentioned?
this is not,
My name is Bill Swanson.
Please step up to the mic, please.
Sure.
all right, this is going to be the last comment I'm going to have. I wasn't even going to respond, because this is not a debate back and forth. This is our DPW committee meeting, and we've got business to do. But
Sure.
go ahead and say what you like to
Just in
say.
your comments, you mentioned the potential tax implications if we, take Grand Meadow out of the picture and lose that tax revenue. I think that's what you were trying to say. But has anyone thought about the property values that will go down in that neighborhood and the potential tax implications?
I said that.
I didn't hear that. I must have came in late.
Yes, we're definitely considering it. We understand that this is going to be a tax burden one way or another, no matter where it goes.
Well, in your comments here, I just heard you talk about the Grand Meadows, losing tax from that. I didn't hear you mention the other side, so I must have missed it if you mentioned it earlier.
I did mention it. I think I did mention it.
Okay.
What was your name, sir?
Bill Swanson, 283 Green Hill Road.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you. Do you live in Long Meadow?
I lived in Long Meadow for 20 years.
Do you live there now?
Do you live there now?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
Say, Chris, I know that you want to try to complete this off, but kudos to Chris. I called Chris this afternoon, and I didn't find out about this meeting till yesterday morning by my mail truck. My mailman told me that there was a meeting here tonight, and I thought, well, my goodness, how many other folks that don't realize that there's a meeting involving Academy Drive? And kudos to Chris. I was not trying to beat up on him, but he did agree to have it televised tonight, so it is being televised to the rest of our community. And thank you for that, Chris.
You're welcome.
Very good.
Okay, so any other comments? I'd like to close this. Go ahead.
Yeah, what are the last 3 sites there? You mentioned 3 sites still. What are
Yeah,
the other
if
3?
you stick around for the meeting, you'll see it all. But the last 3 sites for the quick list?
to leave? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I would like you to stay for the
It's not that
meeting.
way.
No, I'd like you to stay for the meeting and understand what we go through every couple of weeks here.
May I speak, please? We've lived in town 55 years.
Could you come up here, please? And could you just state your name and your address, please?
My name is Teresa DePippo, and we've lived here 55 years. My husband, I'm a widow for 26 years. He did a lot for this town. We're very, very conscious of working for this town. Many people know him from coaching. He coached for many years, boys and girls. It's baseball. My children went to Long Meadow High. My grandchildren went to Long Meadow High. And I've been a widow and paying the high taxes in my house, and I have a very nice piece of property, okay? And just leave it where it is, and I know it's in a flood zone, but people build in flood zones. And the money you could sell that land where they want on Academy Drive, the dirt road. I'd love it if you sold it, because every time they want to put up something, they decide to go back on that land. So just put up some houses there. You could put up 4 houses. You give that land and sell it to a real estate person, and they'll put houses up, and you'll get income. So just build down where it is. You can do this. People do it. They put stakes in the ground. It's a lot of work, and it costs money, but it can be, and you'll help everybody in town because it'll be where it should be, down where it is. My son, when he was going to school, worked down there. And he said, Mother, it's not as bad as that, because when he'd come home on vacations in the summer, he would work for the department down there. So have you considered doing and building it where it is?
Yes.
And have you gone into the cost or no?
Yes.
Okay, and have you considered maybe selling those lots that are there? I wish you would, because every time they're going to do something, they're going to put it on that land.
That's not really what this committee is chartered with right now.
I know, you're just spouting on it's what you want to do with you people. How long have you lived in town?
What?
No, really, what have you done for this town? Why don't you talk to people who have worked for this town?
I don't think what I've done for this town, and I'm proud of what I've done with this town, but this is not really a debate. I appreciate what you're saying. I really do.
Really?
I do.
And what's going to happen to my property? What's going to happen to the value of my property?
If it goes there?
Yes.
I would say it would go down.
That's right. And you think that's fair? For my husband and I working for this town, for the church, for everything, and living here for 55 years, I want to know who here has lived in town 55 years. Have you lived in town 55 years?
I'm not 55 yet.
Oh, okay. Good for you. Then you have chance to build your. My husband and I lived on Albemarle Road, and that was a electric home, electric heat, and we built it, okay? And after 10 years there, we bought this land from Larry LaRoche, and he built this house for us, and we saved to buy that house. It was a matter of either buying that house or keeping what we had on Albemarle Road and buying a summer place. And my children didn't want to move elsewhere. They were in school, they wanted to stay in Long Meadow, and we stayed in Long Meadow, and we took our money, instead of buying a second home, we bought this home on Lab, and we got a pool, and so they were very happy, and they stayed in town, okay? And now you're coming along, and I've kept up the property, and really I have the interior and outerior. I've added to it, in fact, and now you're telling me you're going to put a DPW next door to me?
Well, we're not saying we're going to do that. We are considering it, and we appreciate your comments tonight.
Consider the people that live on Academy Drive.
We will do that.
Thank you very much.
I just want to take a step back. I'm Stephen Crane, Town Manager, for those who don't know me. And there's some newcomers to the issue, which I can appreciate, and the more people that come out to these meetings, the more they have a chance to be educated about the fiscal constraints that the town is under and why preserving tax revenue at a site like Grand Meadows is so important to us, and the challenges associated with the current site, which really the committee has, every task force and committee that's ever looked at it has eliminated, well, in recent years, has eliminated the current site from consideration for a variety of challenges. It's just not, you can't have a first responder, an emergency response agency down there. And so a lot of people, because they're not necessarily engaged in the issue from time to time, it's good to get people in the room and hear out why this issue is so challenging for our community. But in terms of the people who are sitting here, the one thing I just want to clarify is that the Long Meadow Select Board created a committee to help oversee the siting, planning, and then the ultimate building of this project. All of these people here, who are all Long Meadow residents, all town meeting voters, all taxpayers, just like everybody else in this room, signed up to volunteer their time to do this important and occasionally thankless mission. And so what I just want to kind of take a step back, say here, do you live in Long Meadow? How you live? I mean, everyone here is a Long Meadow town meeting voter, just like everybody else. And so when you make your comment that they're going to do something, they is you. They is all of us. They is town meeting voters. The committee is looking at data and information about finances and everything else, and believe me, these people have given. I mean, I'm on the clock here tonight. These people are all volunteers, and God bless them. They spend so much time doing this, and really, I mean, hours and hours and hours, giving of their time away from their families, and they're just trying to make as good a data-driven decision or recommendation to the select board as possible. The select board's then going to take it from there and eventually present something to town meeting, and that's when all of you have the final say. So I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of who these people are, how they got in the room, and what happens after they make a recommendation.
Could you actually, I think for the benefit of everybody here, Stephen, could you go 2 scenarios, explain what the steps would be? I don't know if that's a fair one. Say we make a recommendation to you, whether it's Grand Meadows or some other site, because we're down to 2 others, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on what are the steps that the town has to be involved in? Because it's not an automatic thing. We don't just go start and putting a shovel in the ground.
No.
What has to happen?
So a few things that have to happen. The first is that the select board has to consider the recommendation. And then the real action that the select board would take would be to place a warrant article on a future town meeting warrant to request funding by virtue of a debt exclusion vote to fund the project. And we would, our designers aren't here tonight, but we would present the community with a design and a detailed cost estimate and a location, show you what it's going to look like they did with the high school, right? I was not here for that one, but everybody remembers that vote? Very similar process. So then we present it, and then town meeting votes to pursue a debt exclusion vote. So town meeting votes to put it on a ballot, and then the whole town votes at the local election, probably in June. Maybe there'll be a special election. I'm not sure. It depends. But then there'll be a town-wide election, and the debt exclusion measure will be put on the ballot and voted on again, just like the high school. And so that is where there are several steps between a recommendation made by this dedicated group of volunteers and the project moving forward. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I make a clarification?
Yes.
Something you just said?
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard you say is that the recommendation comes from this committee and then goes to the select board, and then a plan is developed. And my question to you is the decision as to where it's going to be located brought to the town before all the work is done to create the pricing and the plan itself, as opposed to bringing a fait accompli to the town for a specific site?
Potentially. I don't know how the select board handled the information. It could be the thing with it is when you do it that way and just say who wants it at this site, it's really kind of a non-binding resolution, if you will, like a statement of what that particular town meeting is saying. So you really need an instrument that's binding, like a vote for a debt exclusion. The select board may choose a different way to do it to gather public input on it, but we have to settle.
Is that your recommendation to them?
we have to settle on a site to do the design. We only have enough money to design one site. And so when the select board gets the recommendation, they will consider what their options are, and I can't predict what's going to happen there, but they may say, we agree with the recommendation, we're going to continue design work, because we want to present town meeting with a, not fully designed necessarily, but a maybe 50 or 75% designed site, so we can tell you accurately what's it going to look like and how much is it going to cost.
Does the town have to approve the cost of the design phase before it goes forward?
We already have approved, not 100% design phase, but the town meeting's already given us about $600,000 for design funds.
Thank you.
Quick question about the Wool Swamp site? When that was in the ballot?
I directed through the chair.
Mr. Chair, when they did the Wool Swamp site, did they have it designed already in place when they went to the ballot?
No, that wasn't really that was just a non-binding resolution. That was a sense of the town meeting. It was a citizen's petition, in fact. Like I said, if anybody's been involved in a building project, setting aside the the frustrations people may be feeling with one site versus another, just from a pragmatic building standpoint, there are certain things you have to go through to build a building. There are certain things you have to go through to even know if you can build a building. We're still very much in that phase. And so I just want people to understand we're just trying to go through, like I said, in a rational way, going through as much information as we can and making as detailed recommendations as we can, just as a normal part of a building project. I think most people I've heard agree that a new facility is needed. And the constraints of the current site, I spent a couple of hours presenting on this back in December. If you go to the LCTV website, it's on. We televise it just like this one, and it just can't be done, and it's just really not a smart decision to do. You wouldn't spend your own money investing in something like that, so we certainly shouldn't be looking to spend everybody else's money investing in that site. It would really harm the town's ability to handle not only daily operations but emergencies in the future. That's why we've eliminated the site, and the select board's eliminated it, and previous task forces have eliminated it. So now we get out above. Now we come up out of the up across the highway, up the hill, if you will. And as everybody knows, there's just not many options. So we're just going through a normal process, and there are sites that people aren't going to like for one reason or another, and the committee is taking in all inputs and trying to balance it out.
Steve, just one brief, it's a question addressed to what you
okay.
said. If perchance the one site is planned, they develop that plan, it goes to the town meeting, the town meeting says, no, we don't want that, then what happens?
Back to the drawing board.
But isn't it less likely after you spend $600,000 planning it that the rest of the town will say, well, we already spent the money, we might as well build it there? It's kind of not a real fair vote.
Excuse, I'm going to say something.
Hold on, Arlene. Hold on.
Say, Chris, I wonder, you've been very patient, but I'd like to build on what the town manager said. My recollection is that you are a recommending body appointed to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, but it deals really with a site location, does it not?
We are tasked with making a recommendation to the select board of a recommended site or sites where they can make, and then the select board is actually going to take action on whether they want to move forward on that or not.
Now, so your recommendation is a site recommendation. Now, so that's one step of the process. To my recollection, now the select board really has to acquire the land. It under the purview right now of two departments, both the school committee and the parks.
Jerry, you're talking like we're moving forward on the water tower.
No, but I'm saying the steps. I think the town manager might have abbreviated the steps that are required. It has to go to town meeting to have that revert to.
Only if it's a water, and that's our first. Jerry, that's the first item on our agenda, is to discuss what steps we have to go through for each site. So you're getting ahead of it. Everybody's getting ahead of it. We haven't made a recommendation to go to the water tower. We have town council here, which is a privilege for us to have town council here. It's for an interpretation of what has to happen.
being well paid.
Chris, I'd like to build on what Mark was
No,
saying.
we're done. Guys,
He was
we're done.
interested in the process.
We're done. We have,
Okay.
I have to be respectful of our committee's time as well. We're 20 minutes past what we did. I appreciate everybody's comments. I think it was very, very constructive criticism, to constructive suggestions, and we understand where you're at, and I really appreciate everybody coming out. But we'd like to get going with our regular meeting now.
Yeah, that's what he's telling us to go by.
Just different, please. Besides the town manager and the council, are all...
Let him proceed. Let the meeting
No, I know, this is, besides the town manager and the council, everyone's sitting behind a microphone. Are you all volunteers or part of DPW?
No, we're all volunteers, sir.
All volunteers for site, okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the first order of business is to approve the meetings of July 27th, 2016 regular meeting.
Can I ask a question about the minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm Ryan, under the old business section, the third paragraph where it says Stephen Crane comments on the water tower property and the absence of any documentation that transfers that. Was he talking about, I believe, Laurel? Was that already changed, or am I looking at the wrong version?
Tell me what you're looking at.
And I think,
I'm under old business, paragraph 3.
Okay.
Does it still say, I'm not sure I have the final version in front of me, and I apologize. Is the sentence that starts with Stephen Crane comments on, and it says water tower property? I believe that was Laurel Park he was commenting on. Is that correct, Stephen?
That is correct.
So
Okay,
I'd like
so
to
we'll
offer that
revise
as a
that.
change. Thank you.
Great, thanks for catching that, Arlene.
And with that change, I would move that we accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second? All in favor of, with the recommendation of changing to approve? All opposed? All right, so the meetings, so Ryan will make that minor change. He will get the documents to Dave. Dave will coordinate to have those posted for public record, and it'll actually be on the website as well. Okay. All right, for new business, one of the first things we wanted to understand is town council's opinion on permitting issues for the water tower site. Have you had a chance to look into that?
We've looked into 2 of the possible 3 sites. When it comes to permitting that particular site, we're relying on Dave Martell's opinion from 2002, which has been published.
Right. And I am going, let's say, Dave Martell, can you elaborate maybe on what Dave did?
Dave Martell analyzed a change of use of what we'll call the water tower property, I believe when a housing project was being considered for that site.
Former town council.
Yeah, this is a former town council, Dave Martell, yeah.
Yeah, I figured everyone knew who Dave was.
So Dave Martell gave this opinion in 2010, I believe?
2002.
2002, thank you. Okay, so could you, this is for the water tower specifically, site, right?
Pardon?
This is for the water tower site.
Yes.
Could you please summarize his interpretation and whether you were in agreement with it or not?
Well, I know of no reason why his analysis does not control today. Basically, he's of the opinion that the land was taken subsequent to a town meeting vote in 1959 under the control of the Board of Parks Commissioner and the school committee. We're supposed to run this property. And it was taken pursuant to a certain statute that is still in effect and allows towns to take property for certain public purposes.
And can you elaborate a little bit on what it would take, if it's even possible, to turn that into because I read the same opinion, and the committee just got this document 2 or 3 days ago.
Monday.
And I circulated it to the committee members, and it will become public record after this meeting. It'll become one of the postings on the website. But when I read this, I definitely got the impression that you can't put a DPW site on this site.
That requires some further work on our part. including ordering a title exam.
Including what, I'm sorry?
Ordering a title exam from a title examiner.
But at a minimum, even if with the town and the select board decided if they wanted to pursue that site, there's some hoops that we have to jump through, correct? There was, I believe, the Parks and the School Committee would have to vote to turn it over.
I believe the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, because the Board of Park Commissioners, I understand, was nullified or dissolved when the charter changed, so it'd be the Board of Selectmen.
And it would require a town vote. That's what I read in here.
That would be if Article 97 were...
In summary, the Board of... We're not control the land. Absent. Well, first, let's see. In summary, I'll just read back how I got got that impression. In summary, the Board of Park Commissioners and School Committee currently are in control of this land.
Correct.
In the absence of some town meeting action, of which I am not aware, which shifted control to some other town board or boards, any change in use of this property, such as use for a housing project, would first require a majority vote of the Board of Park Commissioners and School Committee, and then a 2/3 vote at a town meeting followed by special legislation.
That invokes Article 97 protections.
But he doesn't mention Article 97 anywhere in this.
In the letter? Yes, it's all over the
Paragraph before that.
He does.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
So this goes to what statute this property was taken under. It was taken under, and I think you published this as well for the public, Chapter 45, Section 14. And it says, I'll paraphrase where necessary. Land and buildings so acquired under this statute, leased or constructed.
This microphone is just for the TV.
Just for the folks at home.
Well, this statute is published, but the statute says land and buildings so acquired, leased, constructed may be used also for town meetings and with the consent and subject to the conditions and terms prescribed by the officer or board in control of the land or building may be used by the municipality or any department thereof or by any person, society, or other organization for such other public, recreational, social, or educational purposes.
And that's where I get the gray area.
I haven't found a reported case saying this use is not allowed under the statute.
For a DPW.
Correct.
But it doesn't seem like that is
That's a provisional.
It's a provisional, it doesn't say it, but it doesn't sound like that's the intent.
It says the statute says other public purpose for another department.
That's the wild card, right? If we wanted
I think that's pretty clear.
Okay.
But again, this is provisional. We haven't looked at trial court cases on this. We just looked at reported appellate cases. And we haven't found anything where this set of facts was actually invoked.
Do we feel that this is Article 97 land?
I'm not going to give an extemporaneous opinion on that tonight. We need that title exam.
But you said you agreed that there was nothing that you thought would change Dave's opinion. And it seems that he says, if I'm reading this correctly...
Well, I think that goes to whether or not this is a change under the statute.
I'm just reiterating what I thought you said to us, is that you felt that that you looked at several properties that we were talking about,
yes,
and that this opinion of Dave Martell's would stand as far as you were concerned, because there was nothing that would necessarily change it. And he says that at a minimum, it needs to have votes of certain boards and a town meeting before this property could be used for anything other than recreation or school.
No, I didn't say that. Other than for uses that are listed in the statute, the land was taken.
Okay, all right, but so in order to do that, so it says any change of use, this property, such as housing, would first require blah, 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 blah. So you agree with that paragraph?
Right, but I don't think that is a possibility here. I think we're talking past one another to a certain extent.
So what would the process be?
For what?
To build a DPW on this site.
Right, it sounds a lot like the Wolf Swamp Article 97 issue.
It could be. That's why we need a title exam.
Period.
If I may, Chris,
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Because I looked at this at length, and I do believe the context of this opinion was requested for was for housing development.
I know it was, that was.
Right, right. So the answer, it's answering a different question than we're asking. So that's why the 2002 opinion, which does predate the charter, and so the Board of Parks and School Committee thing, their roles in terms of land ownership are completely different now, subsequent to this opinion. So that's something to bear in mind. What this comes down to is the definition of change of use. Those steps are required for a change of use. What Mike is saying is that under the statute,
this might not be a change of use.
A DPW facility may not be a change of use, but that is one of the open questions that he needs to do some further work on. Because the opinion doesn't address that question because that wasn't asked in 2002.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, I didn't hear. Is this under the control of the Park Commission and the School Committee today, or was there a change in charter that changed the control?
I think it's the school committee and now the Board of Selectmen, because the Park Commissioners were dissolved.
The Parks Board is now an advisory body.
Unless there was a vote in 1962 or 1964 where the school committee, lost control of this, but I haven't seen it.
So we're going to get clarification on that? You said you think it is. We probably need to know definitively, right?
Of course.
Okay. And then my other question is, we're not sure whether it's Article 97 land or not. It sounded like Dave Martell thought it was, but we have to look at the title to say that definitively. Is that
yes
correct? Okay. If it is Article 97, remember that issue we had with Full Swamp? Does that mean replacement land is going to be required?
I think that would be the normal regime.
So in the context of a wooded, 10 acres.
I think it's the same analysis, Doug. I really do.
I mean, it's going to be a challenge for the town to find replacement land. Is that, or is it easier given the nature of the land?
Sorry.
You know what my question is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the point, the first threshold is, you have to remember, it was not acquired under Article 97. When you acquire land by eminent domain under a certain statute, the land's to be used for that purpose. Again, well, Mike
I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying if it is.
Let's not hypothesize. We need to figure out the actual statute that the land was acquired under. There's an open question as to whether or not this use would be allowed under that statute for which the land was acquired. That's what we're trying to figure out. So let's hit the pause button on the Article 97 question, because it may not be germane to the fundamental question of use of the parcel as a DPW facility.
But if it is Article 97 land, let's say that you agree it can be changed, and we can use it for a DPW site, it's still the secondary issue in terms of whether or not it is Article 97 land.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
And then
with all that
we need
flows
to clarify exactly what that means in terms of restrictions.
Yes, and process.
Thank you.
So the title exam is the action item that we need to proceed with, and before we can make these decisions.
Yes, we need a title exam on this property and on Laurel Park.
Yeah. And the other thing is, the assessor's office, town council's office, have done a lot of research into these issues, but it just needs a greater level of depth than we can do, and that's why the title exam is needed. We just used all the tools in our toolbox. We need some outside help on it.
Is there any idea when that would be complete?
I've never done one.
Am I authorized to go ask for one? Sure. I'll call someone tomorrow and get you an answer.
No, seriously, because in all due respect, I really think it's holding up the process, and I don't mean to be
We can't do anything.
frustrated by it, that's all.
Is it a 30-day process?
Yeah, is it someone working on it right away, Mike, or can we have an answer fairly quickly, do you think?
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, if we can pay for an expedited title.
What's a normal time frame?
Lately, 2 to 3 weeks. But this involves going back into some dusty old pieces of paper. It's not a standard title exam.
Right.
You talking about Laurel or this property?
Laurel, more so, but this property is not the simplest.
Let's debate a few things throughout this meeting. Stephen, I don't know if it's a monetary decision or what, but it sounds already like there's more hoops to jump through for this land than we had thought, even of his last meeting 3 weeks ago. Dave Martell's opinion, when I read this, the first thing we had was the statute from the Massachusetts statute, and I was like, okay, so we could convert this to basically whatever the town wants, is what I read out of that. But reading this from Dave's opinion, I definitely didn't get the impression that, yeah, you can do whatever you want with this thing. I didn't get that impression at all. Now, if you wanted to, could we, if we were in a pinch and everybody was for it, could we do that? Yeah, but if this has to go to a town vote, I mean, I just don't, I think that almost puts us into the same type of restrictions, maybe not quite as much, but very close to the restrictions that, why we eliminated Wolf Swamp Field.
But I think that's the key, is that the question that Mr. Martell was posed with is not what we're posing.
Correct.
And that's the difference. I mean, that was for housing.
Mm-hmm.
This is for a town function. So there's a significant difference. We need that answer.
Okay.
What's the turnaround if we expedite that title?
I can't give you chapter and verse on that, but I'd say 2 to 3 weeks.
So 2 to 3 weeks would be the expedited time,
Yeah, I
not
mean,
just the regular.
Someone's going to have to go down into the basement at the registry to get meaningful answers.
Is this money that the town has set aside for this project not applicable to that?
The money's not the issue. We have a legal services budget. We could use project budget.
I mean,
we're going to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not debating whether or not we should have a title exam. And
No,
town council's made it clear we need one, so we're doing it.
Okay.
Okay.
It would be nice to have it by our next meeting, though.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have it for next meeting, which was what we were hoping. We were hoping to be done. We thought we were getting pretty close here, but and maybe we'll see how this goes. But Mike, you mentioned that you had an opinion on 2 properties. I take it the other one is the Laurel Park?
Yeah, I'm assuming Grand Meadows is just privately held property right now.
Okay, and what was did you have an opinion on Laurel Park as well? Did you do?
Well, Laurel Park we've looked into as well, and unfortunately, unfortunately, the town itself doesn't even know how it holds Laurel Park. The deed I was supplied with from other consultants on this job referenced land in Springfield from 1838. I mean, this is not accurate information. We do know that it was originally taken or preserved or used as a water power company or a water company. It's no longer used for that purpose. We do know that now it is used as a park. So Article 97, again, lurks in the shadows. We'll have to see how that change happened from a water company to a park next to a church.
Can I ask a question then about the Grand Meadows? Assuming it's privately held, as you're suggesting, and the town, or the committee, chose to recommend the use of that land, what would the process be for that?
You would need the Board of Selectmen to put that on the warrant, or accept the recommendation, I guess. Put that on a warrant. The town vote for it by 2/3 because it's purchasing land. You need to, ancillary to that, you need to have an appraisal done so you know what to pay for it. And you either negotiate a deal with the owner, or you vote to take it by eminent domain.
Who votes to take it?
Well, the town meeting, the warrant article should say either purchase or take by eminent domain.
Okay, so that, in question to people, what people are saying, that would be a step before you would do drawings. If you wanted to take land by eminent domain, you would want the town meeting vote to do that before you did drawings.
I don't build things, so you're asking how you take land by
You're
eminent domain.
You're right. You're right.
And then the Board of Selectmen would need to vote to take the property if that's what they want to do.
Okay.
But then you'd probably have a pro tanto lawsuit about whether or not you paid enough. That's the likely
But
scenario.
doesn't eminent domain, somebody told me, and I don't know enough if you guys know eminent domain stuff, there's a limit to how much they can fiddle around with if you paid enough for, and we don't know.
You'd argue it in a lawsuit, or the owner would and say you didn't pay me enough, and here's why.
But isn't there never mind, doesn't matter, I will.
So you're saying we can either agree on a price, in which case we'll pay that price, or if not, we'll take it by eminent domain, and then we might likely get some sort of challenge to the price we're willing to pay. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's a likely scenario, given this property.
All righty. Any other questions for town council from the committee?
Do you need to do any other research on the eminent domain process in order for us to proceed, if that's the recommendation? Anything we need to know more about that, if that's something that we want to? That's it? That's the?
No.
That's pretty black and white?
Yes.
Okay, just,
We just condemned, 50 easements to improve Converse Street. We do it all the time.
We meaning the lawyers, not the town.
No, I mean the town.
Okay. We had on the second item of the agenda to review updated site layouts for Water Tower and Grand Meadows. Weston and Sampson guys are not here this week, so we will not be able to do that. What I'd like to do now, Stephen, can you help me? I'd like to project the matrix on the screen.
I'd have to connect your computer to the thing that's sitting behind all those people.
Let's do that.
you have
I got assaulted by a four-year-old.
She ripped him right off.
So I went to see Dr. Jusko.
Dr. Jusko, it's embarrassing. Show her a big meeting like this. Show her a big meeting like this. Jusko can't keep me.
I just went through the day. I'm doing the best I can.
Cereal, or are you good? What do you do that?
Curtis, your husband. That's your husband? Yeah. Well, Charlene as well.
All right, I'm gonna dim the lights a little bit so we can see the projection. But we're watching Matrix.
Chris, you'll need a microphone to be heard over there.
Yeah, we'll try. Time for the movie.
We need to drag this to there or the microphone?
Yeah, let's do that. There you go. Hang on.
Pretty dark.
Get out of the way.
Stephen.
Oh, yeah. The cords are all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yell. Just yell, Chris. Right?
I will yell. All right. So, I don't know, for our committee members, we've been looking at this matrix for a number of weeks now, a number of meetings. And you can see we had two things in pink from our last meeting. All the other numbers we're feeling okay about. We were not sure the status of the permitting process for the water tower site. And we went through a lot of effort to put more emphasis on social impacts, and I'd like to review this section one more time with the committee. So the first section, social impacts, you could choose from 15, 10, 5, or 0. And for the water tower site, we chose it as 5. Residential abutters, multiple sides with adequate area for screening. We do have 25 acres to play with there. There is some area for screening, but we do realize that we are right up against folks' property. But we do have an opportunity to put a buffer in it. Next category, I think is incorrect, or we have to talk about this. No displacement of current active use, open site, or recreation. And we thought that was really important, and a lot of the focus, to be honest with you guys, was because of Wolf Swamp Fields. And that area is wooded, it's not being used for any active recreational space, it's not being used for any active meeting areas, it's just woods. So that's why that scores very high in that category. But the next category, the 8 I don't know if that 8 is appropriate for that site anymore. And I'd like the committee to...
Can we even go back to the 15?
Sure.
Because...
Let's see if I can blow this up a little bit.
Yeah, we carried it.
Is it possible I have that on the web, Chris?
It is.
On site?
It is.
We do have it here.
Could we get it on site?
It is. It is.
On your website? It is?
It is. I have taken a snapshot of this after every single meeting, and it has been posted as part of the meetings. I am not going to put this matrix out for public use yet because it's not finalized. When it's finalized, I'll put it out. But right now, every time you see it, there should be something that goes across it that says draft, because it's in development, and you can see every iteration of it. If you go back 6 meetings, there were 10 sites there, and then we started taking them out by due process on obvious ones that came out according to the committee, and we're down to these final 3 sites. But you can see this matrix with each issue of the meeting minutes. It's part of the meeting minutes every week.
You said there's one that you thought wasn't correct.
We're going to talk about, Doug would like to talk about
15.
This guy right here. So Doug, why don't you go ahead and lead the conversation on that?
Yeah, so my only question is, I think the scoring in that category may depend on what Mike eventually uncovers in terms of whether this is Article 97 land or not. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is Article 97 land, then it may require replacement.
Yes.
Which means it goes. In which case, that score would change potentially significantly.
Correct. Now, Mike, I'm sorry, did you just say it is an Article 97 land?
No, I said, Doug, I believe asked, if
it was,
if it were.
right.
If it were, then that would affect that score.
In all likelihood, you would.
Yeah, so maybe that just needs to have the same kind of pink shading until we find that Article 97 answer.
What is 15? What does it represent?
We don't have replacement land, so if the council comes back and says it's 97 process, I think we pretty clearly agree that it's not going anywhere.
Correct.
Oh, good.
The only, I agree with you, but the only question I have is when they talk about replacement land, it has to be land of equal or greater value or utility. And with the soccer open, 5 acres of open soccer fields, I think it's pretty obvious that it's heavily used. So there's a lot of utility there. In the case of this, I'm not sure what the quote-unquote utility is, because it's not really used for recreation, it's not really used for active parkland, except maybe by the neighboring residents. So is it easier to find replacement land? I just don't know.
It is used for recreation, I just want to say. We do walk in the woods there.
Yes.
That's like the one place I take my kids to show them real nature, so. Just because it's not, street, that's what's nice about it.
It is used, especially on weekends.
Yes, Stephen.
Just to offer though, I think it is also currently used for public works.
Correct.
For what?
The water tower is a part of our water system, which is a part of our public works, which is part of our public works department. So you already see orange and white trucks going in and out of there. I just want to clarify that one of the uses of the site currently is as a public works facility. I think when Jeff made the comment about semi-industrial, I think I'd made the comment, and what I had said was it is already currently used as a public works facility, not like a DPW shop, but the water tower is one facility as a part of our public works department. So I just want to clarify that.
That's enough.
So it's likely that those 3 pink numbers will change.
Yeah, and we can do a hypothetical right now, which is why I brought this up. I'd like to show everybody, if we had to bet tonight, which I don't like doing this that much. Town council is probably cringing right now, but if I had to bet, I would say, Doug, what do you think the water tower will end up being in this category?
Sorry.
I know. I think if you were to take the spreadsheet literally, and if it was Article 97, it would probably go to a 0, which I think is too harsh. My gut tells me it should be around an 8.
I agree. It's not quite the same animal as Wolf Swamp, but...
Well, we're going back to that issue before. We're double dipping on the 97 again, because 97 gets covered under special permit. We're doing that again.
Right.
And if we do that water tower, we need to open back up the previous 4 sites that we took off last to see where water tower would slot in. So there could be another property that jumps ahead of it.
Well, the other thing, though, in terms of that number 15, if we're listening to the audience, there's saying that passive recreation is used, so at the minimum, it might go to 8.
Yeah, but there's somebody from the town, from that area said there's no trespassing signs all over it, right?
I think that would work. I think that probably has just to do with the tower.
The tower. Yeah, it's only the tower.
Okay.
It's not to get into the tower.
I didn't notice any when I was there.
Okay. So Dave, what do you think? That we should leave that as 15? Because are we saying there's no displacement of current active use, right?
Should we leave it at 15 until we hear what the council says?
Yeah, I was just doing a hypothetical.
Okay. And I am curious, Chris, what that fourth, no, we know what it was synagogue, right? Fourth property?
Yeah, and we eliminated that last week on your motion.
Yeah.
Because it was way too tight. It didn't work. We couldn't even park all the trucks that we wanted to on the site.
I cringe when I hear that. Park all the trucks. Oh, God.
But let's do a hypothetical. Say it turns out to be Article 97.
Goes to 0 then section.
Comes off the list.
And it becomes the third choice. And now you're starting to get a pretty big gap between Grand Meadow and everything else.
So the system works.
For the benefit of the folks here in the audience, we start off with maybe 10 sites. We've gone through this in this level of detail for every site. So the debates you're hearing about these minor things, because sometimes you get the impression that people, we just kind of pick stuff out of a hat and throw it up and that's the recommendation. This process on all these lines, every site. And so I just want to commend, and so when I say I commend the DPW for the time the committee for the time they spent, it's been, hours and hours and hours on this type of thing. So I just want you all to know, this isn't just a water tower, they've done it for everyone.
And I think it's worth saying that we all went out to these sites as well as a group and walked them so we know what they look like from our perspective.
Okay. All right. So that's all I wanted to show on the matrix, because that's really the stuff we're waiting on. So we're still waiting on this. Let me get back to a microphone, because this is being televised.
They can hear you.
Can they? Okay, great. So we wanted to update this matrix. I wanted to show that, if barely see, my eyes are so bad. So if, say, it is Article 97, we have a big gap, and Grand Meadows kind of becomes the front runner. Even if I have where we were ranking it as of today, before this meeting started, Grand Meadows was the #1 ranking of this matrix, where Water Tower was a distant second, not really distant, but you have a gap of 6, almost 10%. From the value of the Grand Meadows. And so what I'd like to do with the committee now is I'd like to talk about maybe an outline and a philosophy on how we're going to write this up to the select board. Even if the water tower comes back as not being Article 97, the town has access to it, they have legal right to go at it, do whatever they want. We need, I think, to come up with basically 2 choices for the select board. One is where there is added expense to the town and taxpayer to go after Grand Meadows, and the other one is maybe short-sighted, but it is from a capital cost and acquisition cost, it's less to go at the water tower, but are we shooting ourselves in the foot later on with residential income? And I think we have to get our hands around that pretty quickly, and that's the recommendation, and we have to understand it and be able to stand behind it, not just on a gut feel. We need to be able to, with confidence, say, this is why we think we should be going in this direction. Is everybody in agreement? All right, great. So I'm going to move back to my spot.
Before you leave that, Chris, on that note, if you just look at Grand Meadow, the water tower, and say it's 6 points, call it 8%, whatever, Laurel is 13 off of Grand Meadow. More than double that.
Right.
So and again, I'm not trying to short-circuit the process, but regardless of what council finds relative to Laurel, or maybe save ourselves some title search time, does it make sense to just pull Laurel out of this as a whole?
Well, we basically are listing Laurel as Article 97, right? And that's why it's down there. Let's do a hypothetical again. So if that was ranked from a permitting standpoint, an Article 97 standpoint, the same as the water tower, Laurel Park becomes the number 2 recommendation. So those pink things, the information that we'll get from the title search is very important. From what we read of what we could find on Laurel Park, as Mike was saying, it is really ancient stuff, and it doesn't make any sense, and we can't figure out who owns it, but it is parkland now. So, and I'm sure the people in that area are going to say, hey, no, it's definitely Article 97. There's going to be a lot of movement. Both sites are nightmares as far as abutting very nice neighborhoods and putting it in a place that it doesn't feel like it's an industrial site.
And there's no common sense.
I think this is a great conversation. I think it's a good balance to have this disparity on the matrix as we go forward and leave it that way, and that could be part of our dialogue to the selectmen, so at least they know. I don't know how much they've been keeping up with this if they're watching TV, hi selectmen, right now, but they know that we've really looked at this and that these things have fallen in these positions and that we've considered these 3 somewhat different sites, and that if our recommendation does turn out to be the Racket Club, it's because of that. I think it helps frame the conversation a little bit more if there's the 3 of them. I don't disagree. It's certainly not going to be my priority, either one of those 2, but I think it helps frame the discussion not only for the selectmen but for the community. So the community can say, oh, they just went off and took Big Racket Club by eminent domain. Yeah. So bad are they? But I think it helps frame the whole conversation.
No, I think we're all going to the same place. And Dave, if I do the opposite, what I did before is if we turn out to be, they're both Article 97, this goes away, then they're within 1 point of each other. So it's really important to that. But what I'm getting out of all this and the title search and Mike's research and everything and the information we got over the last week is that just like Wolf Swamp, the water tower has more issues than we initially thought when we did this ranking. So we're peeling back the onion and we're finding things. Okay. So any other questions on this? I'm just going to leave it the way it was until we get...
Chris, just a question by the committee. If this turns out to be Article 97, let's say that score goes down to low 60s, like you're just doing, are we still going to make a recommendation of 2 properties, or are we just one property?
No, I really don't. The only reason we would do 2 properties, the only reason we would ever do 2 properties on this is if we had one option, which was minimal cost to the taxpayers from a capital standpoint and acquisition, disregarding future income on property taxes and property values, and I understand that's a sore subject with everybody. Versus, do we spend an extra at least $3 million up front that has to come out of the tax basis to acquire the Grand Meadows site, lose that tax income in the future, and address, and it might even be more. When we walked that site, we felt like there might be some more issues from neglect and abuse of the current owner. Hope I don't get in trouble saying that, but there are definitely some site drainage issues that we saw, and from my experience in construction, I feel like there's some cans of worms in there that we don't know about that they're going to come up and we're going to say, hey, we didn't know about this, but it's going to cost us more money. And it's going to come out of all of our pockets. Whereas a wooded site, Laurel Park West, or the few wooded sites we have, very easy to do construction on, very little chance of finding issues that are going to cost us more money. So that's how we got to where we are. But to answer your question, Doug, if that's Article 97 and there's hoops to jump through, I'm coming to the conclusion that there might only be one recommendation. All right, any more debate on this before I take it off the screen?
So we are going to proceed still with the research on both Laurel and and the Water Tower Park. And I did want to ask, I know that the senior center Laurel is one of the 4 final sites they're contemplating. I don't know if that's close at all, or if Stephen can comment at all on.
Excuse me.
I suppose it's worth doing title research regardless.
Yeah, we'll have, they've been kind of writing some of the work that we've been doing on this project. That project that was assessed is a little further behind in terms of the process.
Yeah.
So they'll use the information we develop, but I wouldn't say that the sites are in conflict, because we need to focus on the DPW and a site that works for it. Sorry.
All right, we can turn the screen off, because I think I'm done with that, and if you want to turn the lights back on, it'd be great.
Can you comment real quickly on how you come up with the numbers 1 through 15? Or is it just more of a feel?
It's really a feel. This is kind of, there's a lot of generations to this matrix, and when we first set it up, we wanted to be able to say to the select board, say, hey, look, there's construction site factors, there's acquisition cost site factors, and there's permitting social factors. And the permitting social factors is the hardest one to get our hands around. And we actually try to make the permitting social factors more important in this matrix than in past matrices. We felt that it was not a significant enough percentage of the total score in past. And so we actually increased it, and we're trying to penalize the sites that will cause a lot of disruption, and especially from a permitting standpoint.
So as much as our city manager said earlier that you were dealing only solely with data, that may not be particularly true. You're dealing with your feel for how that number should be ranked.
Yes, there's no...
It could change on what you had for dinner.
There's no set way to go. There's no set spreadsheet we can go to and say, this is how you fill it out, and boom, it cranks out your recommended site. But we understand that this is going to be a burden for somebody. And again, that's why we try to, if it can't be at Grand Meadows, it's going to be imposing on somebody. And we understand that, and we don't feel good about that. But we're tasked with what we think is the best site.
Would you agree if it's at Grand Meadows, the burden is shared for the whole community as opposed to one particular neighborhood?
Yeah, I thought that was a great comment that somebody made earlier. Yeah, I do. But it does become a burden on everybody, that's for sure. Financial burden on everybody.
Shared among the 15,000 residents as opposed to
right, as opposed to just the area
households in the neighborhood.
Right. I completely agree with what you're saying there. So,
Chris, can I make a comment about the matrix? There is some subjectivity to how the numbers are evaluated and chosen. The matrix itself was developed by our engineers, Weston and Sampson, who have developed. What did you develop?
Yeah, not this. We took some guidelines from it, but I started from scratch on this one. We had the Weston and Sampson one and took a couple of hints from it, but Arlene, Peter, and myself, we spent Doug, we spent about 5 hours one night coming up with this.
Yeah, we went back to 2010 too.
Yeah, but the framework of how you evaluate sites and assign points was something that Weston and Sampson had also kind of shared. Like, we start from a framework from our engineers who have done this just dozens of times throughout New England and in Massachusetts in communities like Lexington and Wellesley and Newton, I think. I mean, really, communities with a high density of development, high property values, all of the same concerns that we in Long Meadow all here have. And I hope that we get to the point in the project where we get to demonstrate how effective they have been in successfully designing and building these in residential neighborhoods and everywhere else. And with appropriate screening, it's really been kind of a non-factor for the people in that neighborhood. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that I don't take seriously your comments, but when I see them say, here's the DPW in Wellesley, and here are, $6 million houses, less distance than it would be from the nearest house or water tower, to me, I'm like, well, I can't really ignore that as a factor. We're just like they as us and we as them. So I just want to, I think that's the big thing is we started off from someplace that was given to us by our experts in this matter. So I want to kind of convey that we didn't kind of make the whole thing up as we went. Is that fair to say that?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
All right. So the only thing we really have left on the agenda that we want to try to do is develop an outline for the main topics for recommendation to the Select Board. And as we discussed before, it's going to depend a little bit on what comes back from the title search, but our matrix already has Grand Meadows as the #1 site. And I think we can certainly start working on why it is the #1 site, and we can work on that tonight. And we can get half of our work done, and I think we seriously have to contemplate the residential issue and the impact it's going to have on everybody that's here tonight. So it's not an easy subject at all.
Is part of our dialogue going to be, sort of the boilerplate, this is what we did, or are you want to go right to the recommendation part? Are we going to lay out for them, we looked at 500 property, the whole.
I think Richard was here. They had a representative here for much of the work. Right?
Well, it's really not that long of a story, and I'd be happy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not saying we have to do it, I'm just asking. I don't know.
Brian?
Just saying we could summarize it.
I think we summarized. It's actually not that much. We met, we looked at all the sites, we realized that we couldn't go into the floodplain, and we challenged that for 3 or 4 meetings. We got it down to, we looked at every single site in the town that was 4.6 acres or more.
Both public and private.
Both public and private.
Taking notes. Yeah, good.
Then we went through and did a pragmatic elimination of sites, what we wanted to have for a finalist site. I think we got that down to maybe 16 sites or so. Went through that again in another meeting, got that down to 10 sites and say, okay, these are the 10 sites we really want to look at. Then we just started developing, we filled out this matrix for every site, and it became obvious on which sites should be eliminated and which ones should stay. That went over several meetings, and then we ended up with our recommendation.
She wrote down everything you said you've done.
Yeah, wow.
She did.
I move that she does minutes all the time.
Nobody seconded it.
So.
I picked the wrong meeting.
No, you picked it right. Exactly.
If I may, I think it'd be efficient for you and helpful to our office if we had an idea of the exact scope of what you want in this opinion. I know you're looking for issues, and we don't know the full universe of those yet because we're waiting for additional information on the land, but I want to be able to deliver you what you need the first time.
I'm glad you asked that, because I feel like this committee needs to make a recommendation to the Select Board that will actually go through. Or this is going to get tossed away, and in 3 years, we're going to have another committee that's going to go through the same process again, and the DPW site will still be down on Pondside Road. So I want to be able to say with great confidence to the Select Board that we recommend this because it's a pragmatic, it might not be the cheapest, but it's a pragmatic solution that gets you a new DPW site. And these are the sacrifices you have to make. If it's going to be Article 97, or if we have to go to a town vote, or if we need legislative action on any site, I don't think that's a pragmatic solution. If it has to go to a town vote, the people that are affected by that area are going to show up for that town vote. Not everybody else is going to, and it's going to get shot down. And I completely understand it, and that's the way our town works, and I completely get it.
So you're looking for what could be a political decision on a permitting type issue.
We just want to know what the restrictions are.
We want to know the process of what it would take if we wanted to say, and I'm not saying we're doing it, but say we made a recommendation to Select Board. We think the water tower or Laura Park is the way to go. And this is what you're going to have to go through to do it. And I think we need to tell the Select Board that requires, okay, the school committee, the Select Board approval, town vote if that's what it is. Does it require legislation? Does it require land replacement?
Okay.
If you got that 5, forget it. We're not going to make that recommendation.
Sure.
I don't even know if we're going to make that recommendation if we have to do 3 out of the 5. I want to give what we feel is a pragmatic solution. And, 6 months of doing this, and I was on the original committee that looked at this quickly, and we thought Wolf Swamp Field would be great before we learned it was Article 97. There's just not a lot of great choices. And the select board may have to come to the conclusion that they're going to have to give up Grand Meadows as a tax income if they want to have a DPW site. We've been told, and I understand why, we're not going to build it down in the floodplain zone. You can't insure it. It would be silly to spend $16 million of your money that could be washed away, and we're going to have to get another $16 million from you next year if it does get washed away. So that's crazy. So we've eliminated anything in the floodplain, but we need to be able to make a recommendation to the select board that we think will actually go through.
We don't want them to have to deal with this question after a recommendation is made. That would be crazy. We want to have it completely vetted.
Correct.
Before it gets to them.
Right.
So
We hate
they don't-
to make a recommendation to them, and then they get surprised later on, and then the project gets killed 6 months from now. That's what we don't want to do.
So to be clear, the scope is define the steps necessary to acquire these 3 properties
For the use of the DPW.
for the use of a DPW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Essentially, what the
Can we do that?
restrictions.
Yes.
That'd be perfect, Mike. That would help us immensely. Now, what do you think the timing on that is, Mike, before we schedule our next meeting?
Why don't I'll call the title examiner, and I will let you or let the town manager know the schedule of when we get that raw information back.
Okay.
And then we could make a judgment call on when we could have a piece of work product for you.
Okay. We had tentatively planned for our next meeting to be 2 weeks from tonight. I think we should still keep that penciled in on our schedules, but I don't think we can schedule that meeting until we get some idea of when we're going to have this information. Because we are essentially stuck until we have that information before we can make a recommendation to the select board.
Understood.
So,
So we're not going back to Tuesdays.
we had already talked about
Yeah, we did.
Wednesday.
It was-
And Stephen, maybe help me out here. I was approached by the select board, and they asked me if I was going to have an opinion or a recommendation for them on September 4th, or I believe it was September. It was early September. And I said I thought we would, but I may have to respond back to her and say I
September
can't
4th
say
is a
that.
Sunday.
No, not
The September 6th would be...
September 6th.
The report, if you were going to issue a document, it would need to be in the packet before then. So they'd have time to read it before the presentation. Would be the Thursday. Whatever day it is, it's the Thursday before the meeting.
I don't think we're going to be able to make that.
No. And there's no real, I think, hard deadline on this. So if it was the September 2019th, is September 19th the next one? 20th.
Tuesday?
No, they meet on Monday nights.
19th.
Yeah, so if it was September 19th, I think that would be okay.
Well, can I ask, is there a special town meeting scheduled for the fall?
There
Give a
is.
date?
Yeah. It's October...
That's special. Is that special or regular?
It's our special fall town
So
meeting. It's our annual special town meeting.
So it's early.
It is early this year.
So if we wanted to, it was my dream, personal dream, to have this article on a special town meeting to, ask the town if property number blah, if we could go forward with that, so we could move on with this process, as people here said, get the property and then go on. So that would be totally unrealistic for October 25th at this point, or not? Or can we save a space?
I've been told that town meeting prefers these types of issues at the annual town meeting.
That would be me who told you that, and you always ignore everything I say.
What?
When's the regular annual town meeting, Stephen?
Second Tuesday in May.
Always ignore
it's
me.
the next spring.
Never.
Well, but what it would make sense, though, to get the property established and then go to the Maytown meeting with the design and ask for the money, and then go to the election for the override. To me, that makes sense. We may be asking you for a special town meeting.
It may require a special.
Because you do that very well with
The phone. I'll call everybody again.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to panic. I think we really need to do that.
Okay.
No, I think the 19th is fine. I'll let Marie know. And in terms of just to answer Arlene's question about what was the select board no,
Tentatively in 2 weeks.
I have been reporting regularly that we continue to meet, and kind of generally talk about the challenges. I've really tried to be careful to not report on behalf of the committee what they're doing. The meetings are public, select board members can attend. Richard Foster he's missed a couple, but the select board knows that the challenges that we're confronting and the work we're doing, but I've tried to be careful to give you guys a chance to do your process and present one recommendation without having a lot of opinions formed by the select board before they've heard the final story.
Okay. Then I think we've gone through our agenda for this evening, so.
Move to adjourn?
We set a meeting for the next.
Can we do a meeting? Is it still 2 weeks from tonight?
Let's target 2 weeks from tonight, dependent on information I get from Mike, but I think it's likely it's going to get postponed. I just need to put it 3 days ahead of time for public notice, but...
So you're saying 31?
So you might go to the following Wednesday?
It depends on... I really don't think it's worth meeting until we have those questions answered.
So can we, just to start framing your question originally about the outline, I know took, because she types like really quick, she did write down essentially your outline.
Why don't you, what I would like to do is, I think as chairman, I should take a shot at drafting it.
That would be fabulous.
And then everybody else can review it.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
always
Sounds
easier to
great.
go off some words than the
Yeah.
blank page.
Yeah, but the outline would be great. That's my writer's block, is the outline.
You gave it already, it's great.
Okay, good idea, Arlene. Okay, anything else anybody wants to bring up on the committee for tonight? Doug,
Our goal is
you're
to
unusually
get-
quiet tonight.
Our goal is to have some sort of deliverable for the September 19th meeting.
Our goal is to have it within a few days of our understanding everything. And I may take a shot at drafting something up over the next 2 weeks for review. So let's plan for meeting in 2 weeks, and let's just hold that for now, and we'll go from there. All right, does anybody want to start a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion that we adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's it.